Hi.
Hello. Welcome everybody to our fourth episode of the weekly wrap up of the news with
Yes,
Staying
hi,
Sane with Jay and Hussein. So
Hussein.
thank you for the people who tune in and watch. So Hussein, we need to be quick tonight. We have a meeting after this, so we'll be quick
Yeah,
tonight. So
sure.
Hussein, why don't you go first?
You can start with the news from your end.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Let
Yeah.
me pull up my notes. Okay, so my first note from this week is about an Afghan Australian senator who's been forced to resign from the Labour Party in Australia for failing to toe the Labour Party line over Palestinian statehood when she voted in favor of statehood rather than
Mm,
toeing the party line. So now she's being disciplined by the party for
mhm,
basically doing what's right. So I I've been involved in politics when I was in university. I was a member of one of the young parties, and I I understand towing the party line to a certain degree, but I really think you got to give your members the freedom to disagree and to vote against you if it's something they strongly believe in. To
mm,
discipline somebody over doing the right thing, I think the Labour Party in Australia is sending the wrong message. But again, that's just my opinion. So I
mhm,
think it's a mistake for them to discipline her. So
mhm.
um, the next one, there was an article about support for Gaza, sorry,
Mm,
support from Hamas among Gazans is starting to erode. That
yeah.
many Gazans are getting fed up with what's going on. Even
Mm.
senior Hamas leaders are admitting that their support is evaporating. Some are even giving their donkeys the name of the Hamas leader.
Names.
So as they're
Yeah.
urging the, yeah, yeah.
Yalla. Yalla Sinwar.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's a good sign. I mean, Hamas is obviously
Mhm,
a terrorist organization with a terrorist mandate
mhm,
to wipe out Israel. So obviously they need to get off the board if we're going to have any reasonable
mm.
uh, chance at
Though,
a solution.
yeah, though it's not completely confirmed that the support is going down, but when I went through the report, what I could find there is that at least now the people are able to voice their concerns and they are able to talk against them. So this was not the thing in the past. Like if ever they try to say something against them, that moment they will be chased down and they will be killed
Yeah,
at first
yeah.
sight. So that's
They're
yeah,
saying
that's
some
not
people are
happening
still
now.
afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are still afraid to speak out, but some of them braver ones are starting
Yeah.
to come out. And if their support evaporates,
Hmm.
you know,
Even
and
even
and
even those among the payroll of Hamas, they themselves are coming out and saying this.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So, and related to that, just let me do one more news story because Iran has been
Mm,
supporting Hamas. But this week in Iran, a reformist was elected in a shock to the hardliners. They were not expecting. So
mm,
it's Dr. Pezeshkian. Apologies if I pronounced that. He's or he was a heart surgeon. He's been very critical of Iran's morality police.
mhm,
He's accused them of compromise, or sorry, he's promised unity and cohesion,
mm,
an end to Iran's isolation to the world. He's called for constructive negotiations with Western powers and
mm,
renewing the 2015 nuclear deal. So, because Iran has also been supporting Hamas, we now have a reformer in charge. So we might see a shift in the dynamic now of
mm,
Hamas. If their money supply dries up and their support among the Gazans is drying up, this is could be a significant turning point in this
mm.
fight. So we wait and see how this unfolds over the next few
Yeah.
weeks.
Right. Right. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah, why don't you take one? I got two more stories,
Okay.
but
Sure.
let's
Yeah.
alternate.
Yeah. This time again from India. That's a news from Hathras. That's a town in UP, Uttar Pradesh, where 120 people were killed uh, in a religious function which was hosted by a man who is known as a godly figure, a person called as Bole Baba. That's what his name is. And it was a stampede that happened in that place, and almost 120 people were killed. And things were out of control when the people tried leaving the place, and they were I even read in one report that they were trying to take the soil from the ground where this Bole Baba was walking over, and they found that to be something sacred. So they wanted that soil to be kept at their home for some kind of blessings or so. And now what happened is the stampede occurred, and the number of exits were less in number, so that people were not able to move out of the place, and that even aggravated the whole situation and caused this much deaths over there. So now the police is in action, and even the state missionary is in action, and people are now trying to come up with more arrests and to find the culprits behind this, and even maybe this god may be arrested and will be in the jail very soon. Yeah, that's what we hope. Okay, god to be arrested.
Did did they say what caused the stampede?
Yeah, the preliminary information about that is something like the exits were less in number, considering the number of people. And another one is they when they were taking the permission for this event, they showed less number of people will be attending this event, while it was in the past also more than 1 lakh or close to 2 lakh people were attending the event, and they were showing.
What is luck for
Oh,
the
lakh
non-Indians? What is a
means,
lakh?
sorry, 100,000 is 1 lakh. Okay,
Okay,
so yeah, so and it was like 75,000. That's what they were showing as the probable number, that the turnout, uh, turnaround, the number of people who could be coming over there. So that was going beyond that, and the rush was even more, and that caused the mishap. That's what the police has come up. Yeah.
okay.
So that's one news from here. It's
And
like two
we've
point.
seen,
Yeah, it was
oh,
like 250,000 people turned out this time. That's the number which is shown here. Yeah,
250,000, and they
yeah.
obviously were prepared to handle.
Yes, and instead of 80,000 that they were expecting, 80,000 and 250,000. That's the difference. Okay.
And this is like an annual festival, or this was like a one-off that caused
Uh,
this?
there's a kind of congregation that these kind of people they will hold, like what do you say, uh, these godly men. That's how they do. Maybe once in a month. Sorry, once in a year, or maybe twice in a year, like that. That's how they do it. Okay, so that's the event from the news from here.
Okay, so I got
Okay,
two more to go. So
yeah.
we have a Turkish YouTuber, goes by the name of Diamond Tima. Again, apologies if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. He's got an arrest warrant for
Mm,
insulting Islam and Mohammed, as he did an interview. The Turkish Justice Minister declared, quote, "Ugly and provocative statements targeting Islam and our beloved Prophet are never acceptable."
mm.
Tima has fled to Albania and he's been taunting the Turkish government. So good on him. So good luck, Diamond. Let us reach out to if you're watching. Let us reach out to us. And
Mhm,
last week I mentioned the Vatican trial of Archbishop Vigano. He's now been excommunicated by the Catholic Church for the stupidest reason,
mm,
schism. Now, the schism, as they define it, schism is considered particularly dangerous to the faith because it threatens the unity of the church. Well, I'm sorry, but maybe the people in the church really need to check their history because there
mm,
hasn't been unity in the church pretty much since the beginning.
mm,
So it's a little bit odd. So, ironically, Vigano is also one of the main whistleblowers from the Vatican bank scandal. So there's been some speculation, is this payback for him blowing the whistle? Granted, he's been very critical of Pope Francis, and he's an ultra conservative, doesn't like
mm,
Vatican II and all that. So yeah, he's been controversial. He's a bit of a conspiracy nut, but he blew the whistle on the corruption of the Vatican Bank, and
mm,
for doing that, I believe he was number two in the Vatican Secretary of State,
mm,
and they shipped him off to the U.S. to be the nuncio to the U.S. And it was
mm,
kind of considered a demotion and a slap in the face to
mhm,
him for doing that. So he's now been excommunicated from the Catholic Church for that. So
mhm.
for schism, for defending the unity of the Catholic Church, which has not existed from the beginning anyway. So anyway, that's more of the fun stuff from the Catholic. So
Cool.
that's the main news roundup. We do
Mm,
have time. It's only been 10 minutes. So there
mm,
is another debate topic that came up this week. As some of you watching may know, in Israel, the students, the ultra Orthodox, known as the Haredi, if I'm saying that right, I think it's Haredi.
mhm,
They primarily study. These are the ultra Orthodox, and the men study in the yeshivas, the Bible, um, like a Bible study school, and they
mm,
they just focus their life. But they're the with the war in against Hamas and the IDF fighting, there's been increased call from the non-Orthodox Jews who do serve in the defense forces that
mm,
these ultra-Orthodox should be joining in. Like, why should the non-Orthodox be doing all the fighting to protect all of
mm,
the Orthodox? So
mm,
there's been a lot of pushback. Like the Orthodox are rejecting it. Some of them are actually okay with it. But what they're looking for is accommodation. That yes, they would serve in the IDF,
mm,
but they would not serve in combat in a frontline combat position because fighting is against their religious beliefs. Obviously, they are scholars. They want to study the Torah. Um, yes, some of them say, yeah, we'll serve. Like, can you create an Orthodox
mm,
army division that we can serve in a supporting fashion? Like, maybe we're clerks or supply clerks or
mm,
quartermasters, things like that.
mm,
Um, I believe there's even an Orthodox rabbi who's involved in this. So it's
mm,
an interesting thing. So what
mm.
do you think, Hussein? Like, should these
Uh,
ultra Orthodox be defending their right to live in peace?
uh, Definitely yes, but I was wondering how much their number would be, like what percentage of the whole population could be these kind of Orthodox people. Is there any number
Uh,
to denote them?
well, let me pull up the article. I do have my note
Yeah.
here that says a survey by
Okay.
the Israel Democracy indicate 70% of Israeli Jews want to end the exemptions of
Mm,
military service for the ultra-Orthodox. So 70% of the people want them
mm,
to fight.
mhm,
And then, so here's a quote here from Rabbi Pfeffer. It's up
mm,
to the Haredim to come to the table and say, we're ready for real concessions. We're ready to step out of our traditional comfort zone, so that's important, and do
mm,
something proactive in finding the right framework that will allow us to serve. So that's
mm,
good. Again, he suggests thousands of young ultra-Orthodox men who do not currently do full-time Torah study, find themselves unsuited to the academic rigor, should be encouraged to join the army like the other Israelis. So let me just pull up the article and see if it mentions
mm,
the the statistics. Their numbers are growing. The Haredi tend to be like, I don't know if you've heard in the U.S. like the evangelicals, they call it the quiverful, like a
mm,
quiver of arrows, like the quiverful. So the evangelicals, the Muslims in Europe, the Haredi, they're having like 8, 10 children, right? They're trying to
mm,
demographically take over the country, and
mm,
they've been so successful that within the last 1 to 2 decades they
mm,
have stopped bus services in Israel on the Sabbath. El no longer flies on the Sabbath. So
mm,
they're because their demographic power is growing,
mm,
they're all one, and we all know how functional
mm,
Israeli politics are. So these ultra right-wing parties, they're who to make these coalitions, you really a lot of these parties like Netanyahu, that the Likud party, they really have to get in bed with some of these ultra conservatives that they might not necessarily agree
mm,
with their orthodoxy, their fundamentalism, but they
mm,
need, if they want to stay in power, they have to make deals.
mm,
So their power is growing. Let
mm,
me just have a quick look through here and see if it does list the number. 12.9%, so 13% of the population.
mhm,
So from a small minority, it is now a million strong. So there's a million Haredi, or 13% of the population.
mm.
So yeah, so a million people
So
in the defense forces would make a big difference.
yeah, that's what I would say. Like when this kind of concession is made for them, that obviously will undermine the whole purpose of an army, and that will create an issue uh, within that system. So I think these kind of concessions will is to be stopped at the earliest. That's what I would say. Like if they have some medical reasons for not to be a part of that army, that can be considered. But apart from that, when belief is taken into play, that is also undermining the whole concept of secularism. Don't you think so?
Yeah, exactly. And as I
Yeah.
said, like 70% of the country are fed
Yeah.
up with the exemptions. It's like, why are we
Mm,
fighting to protect you so you can? And what many people may not know. So as regular watchers know, I'm a history buff. I like to research. Most of not all. So
mm,
the Zionist movement that emerged in the 19th century and the early 20th century, the Zionists were secular. These were
mm.
not religious Jews. These were
That's it.
secular Jews who were fed up with how Jews were being treated and waiting, like the religious Jews who are waiting for God to manifest,
And to save them.
Israel. Yeah. And so the many of the ultra Orthodox who live in Israel do not accept the state of Israel.
Yeah.
Even those that are outside of Israel, but there are Orthodox Jews living in Israel who do not accept. They think that the state of Israel is
Mm,
blasphemous, that it is against God's will, because for whatever reason, God's plan, like
mm,
back when was it Hadrian? I think it was Hadrian who scattered the war, the Bar Kokhba revolt, and I believe it was Emperor Hadrian who then
mm,
he basically scattered the Jews after the Bar Kokhba revolt, and that's what led to the,
mm.
the
I
really
don't.
big diaspora.
Mm,
So it was seen as incarnating something that was against God's plan. So it's really quite odd when you think about it that you have these
yeah.
Orthodox who don't even believe in the state of Israel living in the state of Israel being protected by secular Jews. I mean, it's bizarre, but I mean, it's one of those really interesting
Mm,
quirks of history, and this is why I love history because there's just, I mean,
yeah.
context is so important, and most
Yeah.
people miss the context.
Yeah, even they don't agree with what Zionism is for, and so as you said, they don't even agree to the state of Israel and think that that's a blasphemy. So it also shows something else, that is how the state of Israel and the people there, they are upholding the modern ideals, or the realistic world viewpoint above religion, for coexistence and to live further than what is said in the religion. If they were like the other Orthodox Jews over there, thinking that the God will manifest and they will be saved by the God, just imagine what the situation would be. It's just like uh, one part we have the anti-Semitic faction, which is always against the Jews and they wanted to kill them wherever they find them. And on another side, where they will just simply sit, or maybe even they might use some sort of things from their religious texts for defending themselves, and maybe even they just get killed, and even they will be even dispersed from that place. So that's not happening here. So that's clearly giving an idea that one part, or the state of Israel, that is upholding something that is realistic, and I think this clearly shows that.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. There was let me just um, it's on my bookshelf, but I can't reach it at the moment. There's a great book if people want to read it. Let me just share my screen. Which one is it? I'll just share that one. Button container, is that it? Nope, that's not the right one. Hello. So there's this book by Karen Armstrong, The Battle for God. It's a very interesting read if you like history and you want to understand. So the subtitle, Fundamentalism
mm,
in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So it's
mm,
it's looking at the fundamentalist rise of the evangelical Christian right in the U.S. It's looking at the rise of the ultra Orthodox. It's looking
mm,
at like Wahhabism in Islam,
mm,
and it's looking at how they're also interacting with each other.
mm,
And Karen makes a really, she talks about, I think it was back in it was in the 70s, it was the late 70s when the Camp David talks were going on,
mm,
around 76, 77, I believe, with the Camp David Accords. And some of these Jewish extremists were
mm,
plotting to blow up the Dome of the Rock, right? Because that's the Jewish temple, and they've built the mosque on top of it. And these
mm,
Jewish extremists were looking to blow it up because these Jewish zealots thought that would trigger the end times. Well, yeah, it
mm,
probably very likely would have because you would have pissed off a billion Muslims who would have
mm,
utterly descended on Israel and wiped it from the face of the earth.
mm,
And it certainly would have pissed off a lot of Christians too. Um, and Karen Armstrong says, like, incarnating that kind of, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like incarnating myth as reality is like inherently dangerous, something along those lines. Um, and it just shows that like the saner heads, like the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence services, they found out about this plot to try to disrupt the Camp David Accords
mm.
and the peace process with the Palestinians. Um, and
Camp
it
David
shows
was
that,
with the Egyptians, 1978.
okay, 78. Thank you for
Yeah.
looking that up. So yeah,
Mm,
so they were trying to disrupt the talks. trigger the end times. And
mm,
like, yeah, you would have, because the Islamic world, if they had blown up the Dome of the Rock, the Islamic world would have descended on Israel and it would have been wiped out. But these secular heads in
mm,
the army, the IDF, the Mossad, they found out about it, they stopped it from happening.
mm,
So I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, like, there are dangerous people in any religion. Like, you can have fundamentalism anywhere. But
mm,
it's a really good read. If people like history, if they want to understand kind of what's going on in Israel right now, like with the Zionists and the ultra Orthodox, it's a good read. Um,
mm,
Karen, her other book, The History of God, was that one I read too. It was a little denser, a little more academic. I found Battle for God to be a little easier to read, or maybe just it appealed to me more as a historian. Um, so if there's people out there who want to understand some of this context of what's going on, yeah,
mm.
check out Karen Armstrong's books called The Battle for God:
Okay.
Fundamentalism in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So,
Right. Maybe that's an interesting read for those people. Okay. So now, at what time our meeting is to be?
I think it's in an
It's in
hour, just over an
in an
hour.
hour.
So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so we
So I think if we don't have much articles further, we can just wind up here so that I have another half an hour of a live on my channel, so that
okay,
after that I can join the our meeting as well. So
great.
uh,
Okay,
today we are awaiting some results from France regarding the elections going over there, and the extreme right, that's which is to be said that they will win. That's what it is projected. But anything can happen because Macron has really is trying to side with the far left to make a big win for them, to stop the right wing from rising in the France. So maybe something can happen. So we are expecting that. And at the same time, we have another news from UK, where the Labour Party is in power now. And when we talk about the Labour Party, which is considered as the left, and by defeating the right, that is the conservatives, people were always thinking that okay, they are with Islam, and that's how they are going to be in the future. But this time, this Starmer, that's the prime minister who is coming up this time, he is someone who is standing with Israel and stopping the Islamist ideals, and he has clearly given some signals regarding that. And that was one reason why in some of the constituencies he was uh, he was failed by the Muslim majority constituencies, just because he was talking against these, and he was against the Palestinian cause and other aspects like that. So maybe in the future we can see something interesting from that part of the world, UK, some serious action, something
and
against the Islam or left, which we usually talk about.
yeah,
Okay. Maybe.
okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. It was an
Yeah.
abbreviated version this week.
Yeah.
About 25 minutes instead of about an hour as normal. So again, we have another meeting to go to, so we need to jump. So thank you everybody for watching. We appreciate
You
the
too.
people coming to listen to us and listen to us report the news and have our little debates and talk about
Mm,
context. And hopefully it's
mm.
enlightening for all of you. So thank you
That
everybody.
that that caption part, we are getting a comment here. That's on the Facebook, and that's automated captioning provided by Facebook. So we are not in control of that. Maybe on YouTube we get more accurate captioning, and even if we find something wrong there, we can correct that. So maybe we'll work on that. Okay, on Facebook,
Okay.
people were complaining about some inaccuracies over
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
because
yeah,
we're not actually, we're using a different media platform. We're not
yeah.
using Facebook or YouTube. We're using another platform that feeds into those. So we don't actually see the captions because we're using a completely separate platform that is feeding them. So we can't see them. So thank you for letting us know.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
See you, Nat.
Thanks everybody. See you next week.
Yep. Thanks. Cheers.